there's something very special about that movie. That I mean, of course, it applies directly to performers. I mean, it's not just about wrestlers. It's about all performers. It's about everyone that gets in front of a crowd and puts on a show, whether they're a baseball player or an opera singer or a guy that tap dances in Grand Central Station. All those people are getting in front of an audience and giving everything they got. Or maybe they're not giving everything they got. Maybe they're just giving something. But now I'm getting to a point here. There's a moment in the end of that film where Mickey Rourke is about to walk out into the ring, right? At the very end,
right.
He's about to walk out, and you don't know if he's going to live through this wrestling match because his health is so bad. You don't know. And what's her name? That hot chick, whose name I always forget. What's her name?
Tomei. Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, Marissa Tomei. Oh, lovely Marissa Tomei. And she's standing there, and she's like, "Please don't go out in the ring." And I'm paraphrasing, and she's like, "Come on, you don't have to do this." And he looks at her and he says, "The only place I get hurt is out there." And he's got his back to the ring, but he's pointing out to the rest of the world. He's like, "That's where I belong." Is in there. Like that's where I need to be. And I think if I had a motto, I think that's basically it. Like, when I stand in the ring, when I'm standing in front of the audience, when I'm on the stage, when I'm on the street corner with my harmonicas, or when I'm on Grafton Street in Dublin with my guitar, or King, if I'm sitting on a radio show and anywhere in the world, when I'm sitting there and I've got an audience, or potentially an audience, that's what I feel that I'm who I am. So if there's a motto for me, it's not necessarily like I can't really say I play a show a day. It's not like I don't think I can actually put it into numbers like that. But what I need to do is I need to spend all my time getting to that place, and trying to be in that place as long as I can, and being in front of the audience, creating work, like I love being in the studio. You'd mentioned having a studio life earlier. I love being in the studio. I enjoy that. But there's nothing like the live performance. And I don't think there ever will be, There's never anything like the live performance. There's never anything but watching the revelation on an onlooker's eyes, on an audience's, on an audience, just seeing the revelation of being able to take them from one place to another, or to just send out a message in some form, performance is a communication, it's sending out a message and waiting for a reply. And when you get a reply, whether it's negative or positive, it doesn't matter. You've gotten your reply, you've gotten your reaction, you've gotten your response. And that's, when I'm performing for people, if I'm being a real artist, I don't give out the message and expect a certain reply back, It's not a script. Like, I send out the message, and whatever I get back is what I get back, and that's just how it is. And I have to dig that, and I do. So I don't know if that boils into some kind of a message or a motto or a way to live as a performer, then maybe that's my answer. You get it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was just when you said that, I was thinking the only person I could maybe compare you to is Michael Franti from Spearhead.
He's cool, man. I've been really digging him lately, actually. Well, I appreciate the comparison there, Francie, because he's got something good going on.
There is an unlimited number of stories we can get into, but there's actually I want to actually talk a little bit about New Brunswick, since that's where I originally ran into you.
New Brunswick, New Jersey.
New Brunswick, New Jersey. Now, originally you're from Bay Head. Is that right?
I'm from Bay Head, New Jersey. I'm actually down in Bay Head last night and tonight. I'm actually down here right now.
What is Bay Head like if I've never been there?
Bay Head is a little, in the summertime it's not so sleepy, but in the wintertime it's a sleepy beach town. There's a lot of really nice houses, and they're all tightly packed together, and there's little boutiques, not like really intense, like Montauk, extremely expensive boutiques, like the Hamptons, but just little shops and a lake and a bay and some sailing and and some swimmers, and it's just a simple, sleepy little beach town. With a lot of people that have a little bit of money as well.
How does that compare to New Brunswick?
Well, New Brunswick is if you travel around the United States a little bit, you can actually look at New Brunswick and actually call it a city, compared to some of the other quote-unquote cities that I've been in the United States. I'm not going to list any of these little cities, but the big town in Wyoming is not so big. Some of these big towns in Montana, you roll in and you're like, this is it? This is it? This big city? This is a big smoke? Meanwhile, New Brunswick is like, it's like a town that for you and I. You look at it, it looks like it's the city of New Brunswick, but it's definitely this little tiny metropolis. There's thousands of people between the ages of 18 and 35. Like 20, 30, 40,000 people in that age bracket. All hanging out together in one small little space. A couple miles worth of space, all right there. I think that New Brunswick is, it's a young town. It's a young, action-packed town with a lot of people, all thriving.
If someone's going to write a JPAT biography, they would have to devote at least a chapter to your relationship to New Brunswick.
Chapter.
Yeah.
There's a huge section of my life that there's I owe so much to New Brunswick, the city. A lot of people, since I'm from the Jersey Shore, that's where I am. I'm a Jersey Beach kid. Asbury Park is my default musical home a lot of the times because of that, and I love Asbury Park, but I think it has its ups and its downs. It's got its good bits, but it also has a lot of its bad bits. That said, I think I gotta say that I learned more about myself as a performer in the city of New Brunswick than I ever could in Asbury Park. Asbury Park is known as a music town. Like it sells itself as this musical tourist destination. In fact, they just announced 2 days ago, September 1st, that they will be reopening this very famous performance space called the Upstage Club.
Wow.
Which is where the very young Bruce Springsteen, when he was in high school, used to play. Among the Cam and Southside Johnny, when they were all like kids, basically, they used to play this all-ages cafe called the Upstage Club, and the building is still there, and they've been trying for like the last 10 years to get this place back open, maybe even longer. And they just said yes, just 2 days ago. So it's kind of like it's kind of a weird time all of a sudden in Asbury Park because people have been trying to really, really, really recognize the past in this town, and now they finally suddenly are all of a sudden. Now I can tell you all that stuff, but what that means in regards to New Brunswick, the thing about that is I grew up where, in Asbury Park there was a couple of clubs. There was Stone Pony, there was Saint, there was Fastlane, and that was really it for a guy like me. I went to New Brunswick, and there were tons of places to perform.
Oh yeah.
At the time when I went there, I went there. I was there in '95. That's when I moved to New Brunswick. I rolled into New Brunswick. You had like some of the big name places. Like you had the Court Tavern. You had the Melody. You had, I think, the Roxy was there.
Roxy was still there. Yeah.
There was some really important places. Terrapin Tavern. But at the same time, when I rolled in, you also had Cafe News. You had the Plum Street Pub. You had a lot of really great little spaces. And then outside of town, in Boundbrook, was just a short drive away, was the Palmyra Tea Room. Now, there was also a spot, I think that came in '96 maybe, called Indigo Jones. Remember Indigo Jones?
I was definitely there through the Palmyra, but a lot of the places I just wasn't old enough to get to.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I couldn't go in the Court Tavern, and I couldn't go to Maltese. We would eat dinner there sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's right. I was going to lead into Maltese in a second, actually.
Yeah. No, my family would go down there. Yeah, I remember we had a dinner down there. It was like, hey, look at the trains, because they got trains
right.
going around. But you were there actually right at the pinnacle, right at the height, right where it started turning for the more corporate and medicinal type of what I'm trying to say is it's mostly a hospital and college, Rutgers University's down there.
Yeah.
So but you were there at a fantastic kind of.
I came, I caught the tail end. I was there. It was like a little bit of a peak, and then it went down. I think what's really sad about New Brunswick nowadays is most of those venues that we listed, and that was just a small list. We didn't even talk about the Old Bay, which was like a really famous blues club at the time. We didn't talk about a lot of spots.
There is a whole